Part 108. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1071. Chapter 1071 is Mommy fighting in the room. 3. He saw a small body sitting cross-legged and asleep at the door. Tian-Yuman was startled when she saw little Mickey. Then she remembered that her son was still at home. The father and son had not met each other yet and they could meet at any time. Risks of. It seems that before Tanyuj wakes up, little Mickey should be brought to Johnny's place to live for a while. Tian-Yuman closed the door softly, squatted down, and looked at the little guy who was sleeping with his knees in his arms. He noticed the worry on his face. He was obviously a child, but his expression was so mature. But, why did this kid fall asleep at the door? He won't be at the door. Tian-Yuman thought of what she and Tanyuj had done in the room just now, and combined with the fact that this boy could wait until he fell asleep, he wouldn't have been waiting for her at the door from just now. And it is very possible that he has heard what she and Tanyuj were doing inside. The veteran driver Tian-Yuman's face turned red when he thought that the little guy might have overheard the hot thing just now. It was really embarrassing to be caught by her son. She was screaming so happily just now that she didn't know what to suppress. Tian-Yuman got down, gently picked up his son from the ground, took the car keys and villa keys and ran away. Little Mickey didn't wake up until he sat in the child's special seat. He was typing hatch, rubbing his eyes and looking at his mother. "Mommy, where am I going?" Little Mickey looked around and realized that he was sitting in the car. "Mommy, I'll take you to live with your godmother for a while." Tian-Yuman started the car and wanted to smuggle her son to Tanyuj. Go to godmother's place? Why? Didn't I just come back? Little Mickey frowned unhappily and glared at Tian-Yuman with a plaintive look on his face. He felt that the look he was looking at his mother now was particularly cool, and his mother would definitely feel it. Dissatisfaction in his gaze. "Mommy, something suddenly happened these days, so I want to send you to your godmother. Don't ask what's going on. Just stay there for a while," Tian-Yuman said casually to her son. "I won't say that your biological father is here. In order to prevent you from being discovered by your father, I have no choice but to send you out for a while." Little Mickey was completely awake. Seeing his mommy driving at a slow speed, his little face began to turn into a little stinky face. "Mommy, you've gone too far. Is it because of the man you were kissing just now?" The smart and witty little Mickey discovered the key point at once. "He just came home today, and Mommy didn't even have time to get along happily with him. Why did it look different after that strange man came? The conclusion is simple: it was because of that man that Mommy sent herself out." Tian-Yuman looked at her son with a superior IQ with a speechless expression. Imagine if Tanyuj was like this when he was a child. Is this the brain of a person with an incredible IQ? Could it be that his son discovered that Tanyuj was his father? At this moment, Tian-Yuman almost forgot that her son was only 2 years and 4 months old. He was still just a child. How could he think of so many things and think highly of little Mickey? He guessed that little Mickey had guessed the existence of Tanyuj. Then little Mickey said, Tian-Yuman's steering wheel almost slipped. "Mommy, are you afraid that I will be bullied by the man just now? I heard it just now you were fighting with him in the room. You were beaten so hard that you screamed." End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1072. Chapter 1072 Little Mickey stalks Mr. Tang 1. "Even if we get back together, Kenny won't accept you. Kenny is a straight man." Tian-Yuman rolled his eyes. "Ha, you white-eyed wolf, I have to take care of your son, but you actually hurt my heart like this." Johnny pretended to wipe away tears. Little Mickey, who was standing next to them and looking up at them, complained dissatisfiedly. "Godmother, aren't you taking care of me because I'm handsome and cool? Isn't it all because of me? Don't you want me to live here, although he doesn't want to live here at all now, he wants to be with mommy. Yes, yes. I love little Mickey the most. My godmother loves little Mickey the most. I wish I had little Mickey here every day. Johnny's face full of makeup showed a doting smile, with a gentle look on his face. He hugged little Mickey. Humph, I'm angry. Little Mickey avoided Johnny's hug, ran away with his short legs, and the expression on his face was as if everyone owed him millions. Johnny smiled helplessly at Jianyuman, who was also amused by his son's cute appearance. Even though his son acted very mature, he was actually just a child. Johnny, I'm leaving first. Please take care of my son these days. Jianyuman gave a few more instructions before leaving. Jianyuman went to the supermarket and bought a lot of ingredients. Today was the day when her mother and Xiaofeng moved in. There was a giant sugar baby lying at home, waiting for feeding. She had to buy something to eat. Tanyuj will definitely look for her when he wakes up, and he will also find a reason to explain what he went out to do. Jianyuman bought fresh ingredients from the supermarket and rushed home without stopping. When she just entered the door, she saw two men looking at each other and communicating with their eyes. Tanyuj, the bastard, was still wearing a bathrobe. Sitting on the sofa, looking at Xianyuangsun opposite. Ha! Why is her half-brother here, and he and Tanyuj can't get enough of each other? Is it her imagination? Jianyuman walked in with the ingredients in her hands. Tanyuj saw Jianyuman appear out of the corner of his eye and immediately pouted unhappily. Comrade Jianyuman, where have you been? Jianyuman raised the ingredients in his hand and said with a smile. I went out to buy groceries. Before Jianyuman realized what they were doing, Jian Xiener and Chao Xiaofeng, who had just returned from shopping, walked in with many bags in their hands. When they saw Tanyuj wearing a bathrobe and glaring at Xianyuangsun, they also exclaimed. Voice. Why is Tanyuj here too? Chao Xiaofeng exclaimed. Jian Xiener looked at Chao Xiaofeng with confusion. Is he weird? Why does Xiaofeng feel like he's seen a ghost? Auntie, isn't it strange? Chao Xiaofeng pointed at Jianyuman and Tanyuj and said close to her ear. Didn't you know they were a couple before? I know. That's right, you know we just came back not long ago. Isn't it strange that Tanyuj showed up? Could it be? Jian Xiener understood immediately, and looked at Jianyuman with Chao Xiaofeng. Both of them had enigmatic smiles on their lips. Sister, why is this kid here? And he's still wearing a bathrobe. Xianyuangsun looked unhappy. He seemed to remember that his sister was single now and was divorced from the man who had failed her before. Hey, hey, hey. What did you say? I'm 3 years older than you, why do you still call me brother-in-law? Tanyuj corrected Xianyuangsun's name seriously, with a serious expression as if he was talking about important life events. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1073. Chapter 1073. Little Mickey stalks Mr. Tang too. Hey, hey, hey. What did you say? I'm 3 years older than you, why do you still call me brother-in-law? Tanyuj corrected Xianyuangsun's name seriously, with a serious expression as if he was talking about important life events. Your brother-in-law, he is my brother, but he is also a brother-in-law. You took him away. You and I are just friends. Okay. Jianyuman threw a tomato at Tanyuj, but he actually took advantage of him. Tanyuj tilted his head to catch the tomato thrown by Jianyuman, wiped it on his body casually and stuffed it into his mouth to eat. After thinking about it carefully, he seemed to be his real brother-in-law. Although it was a bit strange to be called brother-in-law by a younger man, he still felt very good. Cool. Sister, why is he wearing clothes at your house? Are you getting back together? Have you forgotten what happened back then? I will not agree to your getting back together. Xian Yuanxun refused seriously. Since he found out that Jian Yuman is his biological sister, the girl control process has begun. All men with ill intentions must be carefully monitored, especially the wretched Tang Yuj in front of him, and he must be even more wary. Chao Xiaofeng and Jian Xiener echoed Xian Yuanxun's words and nodded wildly. Why is Tang Yuj here? Do you two have a secret? Hey, hey, hey. Back then Tang Yuj had just started to say a few words when Jian Yuman stuffed a radish into his mouth to stop him from continuing to say something misleading. Brother, mother, Xiaofeng, my lovely family members, actually, I am also in a difficult position. You don't know how pitiful he is. Jian Yuman fluttered over exaggeratedly, grabbed Xian Yuanxun's arm, and began to speak seriously, make up false stories. Tang Yuj tilted his head, pointed at himself, and frowned. Is he pitiful? He had just fed him clearly and was in a very good mood. If Xian Yuanxun hadn't appeared, he would have been even happier, because he just saw Jian Yuman going to buy ingredients and there would be a delicious meal in the evening. Just now Tang Yuj came to me to deal with something, and he encountered a very cheating thing. My dog Cupid thought a stranger was coming, so he ran over to bite him. You also know that Cupid's mouth is not very powerful, and he will bite if he can't. Peeing on him made Tang Yuj's whole body smell like dog urine. What? Tang Yuj's eyes almost popped out of his head. The little puppy was scared to death. How could he have the guts to pee in his pants? Jianer. Can you find a more serious reason? I have to say that he, So, he had to be peed on by dogs all his life, so he had no choice but to run to take a bath. Xian Yuanxun covered his nose and looked at Tang Yuj with disgust. Chao Xiaofeng and Jian Xiener also took a few steps back, as if Tang Yuj was still full of smell at this moment, so they could look at him sympathetically. Jian Yuman stuffed another grape into Tang Yuj's mouth to stop him from talking. Yes, brother is really smart. Tang Yuj turned his head and looked at the sky with a look of despair. He has a suspicion that he will never be able to get rid of Jianer. You brought me into the pit on purpose. It's immoral for you to do this, do you know? Forget it, seeing that I have been greatly satisfied physically and mentally just now, I won't bother with her about the bad things she found today. It looked like she just didn't want to be known about what happened just now. She thought that the relationship between their underground bed partners could not be known to a third party, so she could only swallow it bitterly. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1074. Chapter 1074 Little Mickey stalks Mr. Tang 3. Forget it, seeing that I have been greatly satisfied physically and mentally just now, I won't bother with her about the bad things she found today. It looked like she just didn't want to be known about what happened just now. She thought that the relationship between their underground bed partners could not be known to a third party, so she could only swallow it bitterly. Ex-son-in-law, do you think you should take a shower again? Jian Xiener pinched her nose and looked at Tang Yuj with disgust. I don't mind wearing my clothes for you. Xian Yuanxun also had a virtuous expression on his face that said I was selfless. I will put a nice fragrant rose petal bath for you. Chao Xiaofeng rushed upstairs quickly, talking and running to take out the special rose petals from her suitcase. You go ahead. Jian Yuman patted Tang Yuj on the shoulder and looked at Tang Yuj pitifully. Tang Yuj fell directly on the sofa, looking at Jian Yuman who was suppressing a smile with sad eyes, feeling hopeless. Tang Yuj was kicked to take a bath. Although he was forced to do so, a group of people warned him that if he didn't take a bath for an hour, he would not be allowed to stay here. Jian Yuman has already found a perfect reason for Tang Yuj. He recently came to Paris for work, and knowing that they had just come back, he wanted to come and stay. Tang Yuj is a pretentious and grown-up man who doesn't want to live alone in a hotel without any human touch. Anyway, I know everyone, and I have a friendly relationship with Jianyuman, so I came over to stay for a while. Although Jianyuman found a perfect reason, the ambiguous looks in Jianxianer and Chao Xiaofeng's eyes clearly expressed their thoughts. On the other hand, Xian Yuanxun looked at Tang Yuj warily, preparing to throw him out at any time if Tang Yuj did something bad. The reason why Xian Yuanxun appears here is naturally because of Jianxianer. He said it was because he and Jianxianer had been separated for so many years and he wanted to experience more what it was like to live with his mother. In fact, there was another reason, which was that Xian Kaiping was worried about Jianxianer coming to live alone. I just had nothing to do and I invited my son to come and stay with him, help him take care of Jianxianer's life, and at the same time act as a little spy to inform Jianxianer's life situation during this period. So where Jianyuman and little Mickey originally lived, 2 more men and 2 women moved in. The small family that was originally just their mother and son became a big family by the way. There is a mother at home, a loved one, a brother who has just met, and a best friend. Naturally, the lovely Cupid cannot be ignored. At night, the most restless person was Tang Yuj. In the dead of night, he sneaked onto her bed and startled Jianyuman. "Why are you here?" Jianyuman lowered her voice and frowned unhappily. "Come and drive, old driver." Tang Yuj smiled innocently. Jianyuman rolled her eyes. "Take your sister's car and go back. My brother will see you later and I won't castrate you. And didn't we promise to keep our relationship confidential? I won't let you drive it during this period. I'll drive it during the day. Isn't it enough?" It's amazing, Tang Yuj is as eager as ever, he is full of energy every day, and feeding him is a physical job. Sugar Baby immediately made a bitter look on his face, hugged his poor pillow and walked away. As he walked, he looked back at her and accused her of cruelty, as if she had done something so evil that it made Jianyuman dumbfounded. There are updates at 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock, okay. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1075. Chapter 1075. Little Mickey follows Mr. Tang 4. Sugar Baby immediately made a bitter look on his face, hugged his poor pillow and walked away. As he walked, he looked back at her and accused her of cruelty, as if she had done something so evil that it made Jianyuman dumbfounded. Sugar Baby hadn't left for long before another person in pajamas slowly wandered to Jianyuman's room. Jianyuman jumped up from the bed, grabbed a pillow and threw it at the person. "Are you bothered, Tang Xiaofeng? I saw that it was not Tang Yuj, that monster, but Chao Xiaofeng. Manman, you don't love me anymore. You actually said that I was annoyed. You were not like this before. You used to love me very much and said that you couldn't live without me." "Uh-huh." Chao Xiaofeng turned around and leaned her arms against the wall. "Go up, lie on the wall and pretend to cry," while accusing Jianyuman of being a bastard. "Ha ha ha. Misunderstanding, misunderstanding, I thought it was Cupid who came in. Stop lying on the wall. It's cold on the wall. You, a pregnant woman, should pay attention to your health." Jianyuman smiled awkwardly and immediately flew over to catch Chao Xiaofeng, taking her back from the wall to the bed. When they got to the bed, Chao Xiaofeng was still pretending to cry, and Jianyuman stretched out her paw and patted her head. "Okay, stop pretending." Chao Xiaofeng grinned and removed the hand covering her face. As expected, there were no tears at all on her face. It was indeed a fake cry just now, and Jianyuman also saw through it. Chao Xiaofeng covered her head and complained. "Don't hit pregnant women casually, or you'll make them stupid. Come on, you're not smart either." "What do you mean I'm not smart? I'm a top student, and I'm a top student with real ability to get admitted to the University of California." Chao Xiaofeng raised her chin in protest, not insulting her IQ. Chao Xiaofeng is now much more energetic than before, and much braver about feelings than Jianyuman. It can be said that she is a woman who dares to love and hate. Ever since Yayuan was deeply hurt that day, he has become more and more brave and slowly regained his former vitality. Who is Yayuan? She didn't care what she was doing recently, all she thought about every day was how to make the baby in her belly grow healthily. Chao Xiaofeng didn't know what Yayuan was doing recently, but Jian Yuman knew it clearly. Yayuan was determined to get married to his fiancée. Even though they were so fussy that day, the wedding was still held that day, but it was just a lot shabby. Jian Yuman also couldn't figure out why Yayuan did this. He kept saying that he loved Chao Xiaofeng, but he did things to hurt her. He is basically a scumbag. It seems that he has moved on to another relationship a long time ago. Poor Xiaofeng will have to give birth to a child for him in the future. Finding a partner will inevitably be delayed to some extent. Being a single mother is not easy, and she knows it very well. As for the leaf edge, it will be thrown as far away as possible. Manman, tell me, the relationship between you and Tangyuj seems to have eased a lot recently, isn't it? Chao Xiaofeng bumped into Jian Yuman and smiled more ambiguously. What? Jian Yuman looked around guiltily. We are good sisters, don't you know, you seem to have a good relationship recently. What's better is the relationship between friends, but if you have too many people, you can't have a relationship with someone else but a bed partner. Really? Chao Xiaofeng looked unbelieving. Yes. You know what I know about him. As for the relationship between him and my ex-wife, he is really just a friend and ex-wife. You also know that he and Murong 11 have been in a relationship for more than 10 years. How can I easily intervene, even if there is something? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1076. Chapter 1076. Little Mickey follows Mr. Tang 5. Yes. You also know what I know about him. As for the relationship between him and my ex-wife, he is really just a friend and ex-wife. You also know that he and Murong 11 have been in a relationship for more than 10 years. How can I easily intervene? Even if there is any relationship, at most, I'm just thinking about it and dreaming. Jian Yuman felt melancholy in her heart when she talked about Murong 11's existence. The relationship between them is really unclear. She originally wanted to end it, but today the relationship was messed up again. It continues to be unclear, and she doesn't know when it will end. To be honest, she was really afraid that Murong 11 would come to her door one day and say that she was a third party, her ex-wife. Third party? How embarrassing. Okay, don't be sad anymore. Chao Xiaofeng felt that her friend was depressed, and immediately changed the topic cleverly, not continuing the previous topic. The rest of the night was spent in silence, everyone thinking about their own things. Little Mickey, who was walking away from his godmother, had no expression on his little face, and his eyes were filled with the words, "I'm unhappy, I'm very unhappy." Hearing the snoring of my godmother beside the bed, I felt even more unhappy. Yuzhe? Regardless of whether you are Jinzhe, Yinzhe, or Yuzhe, if you dare to mommy from me, you will know the consequences of offending me, Mickey. Hum hum. At this moment, little Mickey's little head has been thinking about Tangyuj, and decided to go and stay with Tangyuj to see who the monster is. He dares to play kissing with her mother, and makes her mother abandon him to her godmother for him. It would be unworthy of a gentleman not to avenge this. Snored. Little Mickey kept thinking about Tangyuj, and fell asleep while thinking about it. Early the next morning, little Mickey put his treasure bag on his back and packed a bunch of things, including wallets, props, binoculars, and other crime tools. Before Johnny woke up, he went to camp in front of his house. By coincidence, not long after little Mickey paused at the door, Tanyush's handsome figure appeared at the door. He stopped the taxi and left without driving. Tanyush, who had breakfast early this morning, was immediately kicked out by Jianyuman and asked to go to work. No matter what excuse he made, he had to follow through, so he had to work if he didn't have a job, and he had to go out for a walk and come back if he didn't. Yiman had already planned to kick Tanyush out in 2 days. When little Mickey saw Tanyush appear, he immediately stopped a taxi and struggled to open the taxi door. He tried hard to open the door, but the taxi driver kindly got out of the car and helped open the door. "Thank you, Uncle." Little Mickey lifted up his short legs and climbed into the taxi. He was still muttering to himself when he got into the taxi. His stature is still too small and his strength is still too little. He needs to grow up quickly. "Uncle driver, help follow the taxi in front." Little Mickey raised his little paw and pointed at Tanyush, who was gradually moving away. The taxi driver looked at the serious-faced little Mickey with an amused look, and asked while driving, "Kid, you go out alone at such a young age. Where are your parents?" Little Mickey looked at the driver with his bright eyes, and then he talked for a while. "My mommy asked me to deliver a lunchbox to my daddy, but I couldn't catch him after chasing him, so I had to follow the car to find Daddy." Little Mickey casually found an excuse and was determined not to let strangers know that he was following an adult. But Little Mickey never expected that her casual words would reveal the correct relationship between their father and son, but Little Mickey didn't know it yet. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1077. Chapter 1077. Daddy, don't you want a son? 1. Little Mickey casually found an excuse and was determined not to let strangers know that he was following an adult. A casual sentence revealed the correct relationship between father and son, but Little Mickey didn't know it yet. However, the driver became interesting and wanted to chat with Little Mickey, but Little Mickey glared at him and gave him a look that didn't tell him that he didn't want to chat at all. The driver didn't speak. Although the driver didn't say anything, he still thought this little guy was very interesting. He actually glared at an adult at such a young age. He looks like he is only 2 or 3 years old. He goes out alone and is not afraid of being trafficked. The driver followed the car in front and drove quickly on the road. At this moment, all Mickey's thoughts were focused on Tanyush in the taxi in front. He took out a compact digital camera and took 2 photos of the car. The driver in the driver's seat became even more interested when he saw that this little guy could actually play with a camera. He couldn't help but sigh that children nowadays are so smart. He could play with a camera at a young age, but he only knew a little about it. Tanyush's taxi stopped at the Paris branch of the Emgrand Group. The little guy also paid the taxi fare. He got out of the car under the strange look in the driver's eyes. He took out his camera and took a few photos at the entrance of the Emgrand Group. I took a few photos of Tanyush and watched helplessly as Tanyush went in and didn't come out for a long time. Does this man work for the Emgrand Group? Mickey Mouse rubbed his chin, thinking. It happened that there was a shopping mall opposite the Emgrand Group. Little Mickey ran to the shopping mall directly opposite and arrived at a restaurant on a relatively high floor. The little man went in to prepare a meal, ordered a drink and sat down. Of course, for such a young child, he was inevitably asked a few questions, such as whether he was waiting for his mother, whether he was lost with his mother, etc. After sitting down, Little Mickey took out his tablet and started Baidu Tanyush from the sparse information. After inputting the data of Dihao Group and Yuj, some small information immediately popped up. The content of the information was not very large. Little Mickey, who was quite literate, quickly browsed the text content and came up with an answer. Tanyuj, chairman of Dihao Group, and several photos. I didn't expect that mommy was actually kissed by this man. Looking at the photo, she still looks pretty. Mommy is really passionate about the handsome guy. It's so pity for the handsome godfather that he confiscated mommy, a flower-picking thief. Chien Yuman likes to look at handsome guys. Even little Mickey, who is over 2 years old, knows that. When he saw Tanyush's photo, he naturally classified him as a male pervert who was favored by his mother, without thinking deeply about it in his little head. After getting the information, he took out his telescope and started looking for Tanyush on the top floor opposite. Tanyush is the chairman of Dihao Group, so his office must be upstairs. Little Mickey didn't look for long before he found Tanyush in the office. He's reading information? It's so boring. What are his computers? You can't see it through the telescope. By the way, look for Aunt Xiaoling, she is a computer hacker. Little Mickey happily took out his mobile phone and called Xiaoling. To help with the prank, he said that he would help him take revenge on a bad guy and hack the other person's computer. Although Xiaoling didn't know what the little guy was doing, he naturally didn't need to ask in detail about such an interesting thing as destroying the computer, and he responded immediately. After hanging up the phone, little Mickey kept looking at Tanyush opposite, waiting for the first step of the prank. Little Mickey is cheating on his father, cheating on his father. He just knows how to make trouble, and learning from Xiao Manman is better than his skill. Ha 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 ha. There will be more in a moment. Wait a little longer and continue typing. There are probably 2 or 3 chapters left. Renew. Everyone, go to bed early. Happy Chinese New Year, His Majesty is finally 18 years old, shameless. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1078. Chapter 1078. Daddy, don't you want a son? 2. Hang up the phone for less than 10 minutes. Little Mickey saw the scene on the other side through the telescope and started to go berserk. Tanyush was reading the information when his computer screen suddenly went black, and then several big words appeared. "How dare you bully my nephew" were written in 9 big characters, and then no matter how hard I shut down the computer and blacked out the screen, it didn't help. Manager Wang, what's going on? Why is the computer like this? When did our company's firewall become so useless? Tanyush slapped the table and was very angry at the content on the computer screen. Which hacker was taking pleasure in this? Manager Wang was so frightened that his legs were weak. He received news early in the morning that Tanyush was going to make a surprise inspection. The boss came without any warning, causing the entire branch to be in chaos for a while. I didn't expect that when he was reporting, there would be a hacker intrusion. It was like God was going to kill me. Manager Wang was so frightened that he quickly found the technical department to solve the problem, because no matter what they tried, they couldn't shut down the phone. The only way to solve the problem was to cut off the movie. Little Mickey, the instigator, covered his mouth and kept snickering. He was laughing so hard that he didn't feel embarrassed about his little prank, and even felt complacent about it. Suddenly, Tanyush on the opposite side turned his head, scaring little Mickey into hiding immediately. Could it be that he had been discovered? It makes no sense, he wouldn't be discovered at such a distance. Opposite Tanyush listened to Secretary Wang's report with a dark face, and suddenly turned his head and looked somewhere. Tanyush's face became darker, and he looked at the building behind him, his eyes narrowed dangerously. Secretary Wang, does the glass in our building not have anti-peeping function? This immediately asked people to replace all the glass overnight. Did you realize this? If the company's secrets are exposed because of the people on the opposite side, you won't have to continue doing this job. Tanyush's face was gloomy. Looking at Secretary Zhang beside him, he slapped the glass with his palm, which scared Secretary Wang's legs to the point where he could only stand by holding onto the table. Even though the boss is usually a gentleman and easy to talk to, if he really gets angry, even the CEO will be afraid. Tanyush's eyes quickly swept across the opposite floor. From just now, he felt like he was being peeped at, and this feeling became stronger and stronger. This was definitely not his imagination. Who is it? Could it be a shopping mall competitor? As Tanyuj has climbed to this position, there are really many competitors in the shopping mall, and there are also many enemies for this reason. Little Mickey on the opposite side couldn't help but raise his head curiously, and looked over again. When he saw Tanyuj looking towards him, he was so frightened that the telescope in his hand flew out. The serious little face was full of fright. He's really looking at me. Did he really find me? Impossible, impossible, little Mickey kept comforting himself. When little Mickey mustered up the courage to look over again, he found that no one was there at all. Tanyuj had disappeared into the office opposite. Did you go to the toilet or somewhere else? Little Mickey searched busy for a while, but couldn't find Tanyuj, and finally decided to give up. He took out his cell phone and quickly retrieved information. Knowing himself and the enemy would lead to victory in any battle. He had to know the enemy's true identity and specific information. He poked around with his little finger for a while, but couldn't find the information. Next time I need to learn some hacking skills from Aunt Xiaoling, otherwise I won't be able to find anything just by searching online. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1079. Chapter 1079. Daddy, don't you want a son? 3. Just when little Mickey was about to give up searching, he saw a figure from the corner of his eye, a familiar figure. It was Tanyuj, who he had been unable to find just now. Oh my God, this enemy is so powerful. Little Mickey was so frightened that he hid under the table and peeked at Tanyuj from below. Tanyuj is not across the street, but he happens to appear in this restaurant on this floor of this building. Is this all a coincidence? Little Mickey's little head can't think at all. He is really just a child over 2 years old. No matter how intelligent and mature he is still just a child. It was impossible to fight Tanyuj, and it was impossible to understand why Tanyuj found himself here. Whether it was a coincidence or discovered, he couldn't figure it out. He just felt very scary. Is he a god? Or Holmes? Mommy, what is your relationship with this man? What is this man? Why is it so powerful? Tanyuj's eyes quickly looked around, and his sharp eyes swept across the restaurant. Because it was still early in the morning, there were not many people dining, and there were only a dozen or so people dining in the restaurant. His eyes glanced at each individual to determine which one had the potential to steal secrets. Tanyuj's footsteps kept approaching little Mickey. Little Mickey was so frightened that he covered his mouth. He noticed that Tanyuj walked past him, and his eyes also fell on little Mickey's tablet computer and a small children's bag placed on the table. Which is little Mickey's full armor. Little Mickey was so frightened that he realized that if he held the telescope in his hand and put it on the table, wouldn't it be tantamount to causing trouble? Hitting his small body under the table, no one would notice him. Of course, Tanyuj didn't lower his head to look at the table. Who would have thought that he wouldn't be watched by a 2-year-old baby? Tanyuj looked at everyone and found no one. In the end, he didn't find the person who was watching him. It can't be possible. Tanyuj looked around but couldn't find anyone, and finally chose to stay in the restaurant. He sat down not far from little Mickey, ordered a drink like little Mickey, and began to observe carefully. A pair of feet appeared in front of little Mickey, wearing waiter's clothes. The waitress looked around, confused. Strange. Where is the very cute and beautiful little boy just now? I saw him in his position just now. The waitress glanced around, and then she saw the little feet under the table out of the corner of her eye. She bent down and saw little Mickey squatting under the table. Kid, what are you doing squatting under the table? The gentle waitress asked with a smile. Little Mickey looked at the waitress, his eyes widened, he waved his hand and patted the seat. "Sister, sit down and don't let that person find me." Little Mickey had a pitiful expression on his face and begged the waitress. The expression on Little Mickey's face at this moment is something he would never see normally. His normal expression is cool, as if someone owes him money. Only when facing his mother, he often breaks the ice and shows a pitiful expression. Absolutely unprecedented. If Tianyuman sees it, she will naturally know that her son's expression means something bad is about to happen, and the little devil is going to cause trouble. The waitress couldn't stand Little Mickey's angelic face, showing her such a pitiful expression. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1080. Chapter 1080. Daddy, don't you want a son? 4. The waitress immediately followed what Little Mickey said and sat on the sofa next to him, lowering her head and holding Little Mickey in her arms. "Child, what's wrong with you, can you tell your sister?" Little Mickey nodded quickly, then pointed to Tanyuj not far away. "Sister, can you do me a favor?" "What's the deal?" The gentle waitress didn't know at this moment that she was slowly walking into Little Mickey's trap. Little Mickey pointed at Tanyuj in the distance, showing a sad expression, pouted sadly, and said with a cry, "That's the man just now, do you think he's handsome?" The waitress looked over and saw Tanyuj nodding repeatedly. When Tanyuj came in just now, she noticed that Tanyuj, a handsome guy, was discussing this handsome guy with the waitress backstage. Little Mickey continued to inherit his mother's acting skills. Actually, that's my dad, and he's a bad guy. Look, he's very handsome, because he's very popular outside, and he often messes around outside, which makes my mother cry every day. I haven't seen Dad in months, and you know I'm still very young. Even if Dad rushes over, he might not recognize me. Dad and Mommy are getting divorced recently. I'm so angry, and I'm so sad for Mommy. I came here to have dinner with my mistress today, so sister, can you help me, add this to his ingredients, and teach Dad a lesson?" Little Mickey took out a piece of China's #1 chili pepper water. Just a small drop can kill Tanyuj. Tanyuj, who couldn't eat spicy food, didn't know that he was being plotted by his son, whom he had never met before, and was still observing everywhere. The waitress listened to the little guy's complaints without any doubt at all, and believed what Little Mickey said. Just imagine, who would think that a child over 2 years old is telling lies? In addition, Tanyuj and Little Mickey are indeed somewhat similar, and the waitress has completely believed in Little Mickey. The waitress was hesitant at first, but when she saw Little Mickey's aggrieved and pitiful look, she actually agreed and completely lost her mind. She just had an urge to teach Tanyuj a lesson for Little Mickey. Everything went smoothly. Little Mickey packed up his small bag and took out his camera to take a picture of Tanyuj's embarrassment. Looking at a drink being placed in front of Tanyuj, watching him drink it slowly, he quickly took pictures. The first moment after entering the mouth, Tanyuj spat out the radish juice in his mouth. Tanyuj, who couldn't eat spicy food, felt that his whole mouth was full of fire and his head was blinded by the spicy food. The waitress didn't expect the chili pepper water to be so powerful. She was startled and immediately brought a glass of iced water to her. Tanyuj, who drank a large glass of wine, had eyes blazing. He immediately grabbed the waitress's arm and glared at her. Tanyuj was in a rage, and the terrifying weia on his body was frightening. Just one look in his eyes made the waitress fall to the ground in tears. "Tell me, who instructed you to do this?" After Tanyuj drank the radish juice that had been mixed with condiments, he understood that someone had instructed the waitress to do this, because no waiter would be bored enough to harass the guests. In addition, the waitress came over promptly with water, obviously she was well prepared. He came to this restaurant because he was looking for someone to spy on him. Coupled with the prank, he was even more certain that the person was still there, but he just didn't see him. Who the other party is, he must find out today. The waitress was too frightened to move and couldn't speak at all. Already frightened by Tanyush's gloomy face, his legs were weak, his feet were trembling, and he was hesitating and speechless. Tanyush snorted coldly, shook off the waitress's hand, quickly scanned the scene with sharp eyes, and accurately found a strange figure. When he saw himself, he jumped up, put away the camera in panic, and hid with a guilty conscience. Under the table. Are you a little kid? Child. Tanyush was also stunned when he saw little Mickey, and even suspected that he had made a mistake in his judgment. His Majesty, the invincible Thunderbolt Supreme Commander of the Universe, ha ha ha. Little Mickey, you are still too young, your dad must have discovered it. Mr. Tang, little guy, if you dare to punish your father, even your son will be beaten. Little Mickey, dear godmothers, beauties, and sisters. Save little Mickey. Your Majesty, Commander-in-Chief, said that if you give me a monthly ticket or a recommended ticket, I won't be hummed.